The cell was small, too small for a human body to ever stretch, too cold for sleep to come easy, and far too silent, at least, until the whispers started. The human sat against the wall, his head bowed, his breath shallow. His name was Captain Aaron Holt, but here, in this forgotten alien prison, he was just a number. The enemy had taken his rank, his freedom, and almost his hope. Almost. He had been captured years ago during a battle humanity had already forgotten. In official records, Holt was listed as killed in action. On Earth, no one knew he still lived. No one knew he still fought against despair every single day in a cell of metal and shadows. The whispers came at night. They weren't human. They weren't guards. They were other prisoners, calling through the walls in broken voices, telling fragments of stories, pieces of news they had overheard. Most of it was rumor, twisted with fear and time. But one whisper hit Holt harder than all the rest. They think you are dead. Earth believes you fell years ago. Holt pressed his head against the wall, his eyes closing as the words sank in. Dead. Forgotten. If Earth thought he was gone, then no one would ever come. He would die here, nameless, in the hands of aliens who hated his kind. Still, he refused to break. He held on to one thought, one stubborn ember of defiance. If I am alive, then I am not lost. The night stretched into months. Holt counted the days by the dim light shifts in the hallway. He scratched marks into the wall until his nails bled. Then, one night, the silence broke in a way it never had before. The sound of metal, a lock turning. A hiss of the cell door. Holt's eyes snapped open. He tensed, ready for another beating, another test of pain the guards often played. But this was different. The door slid open, and in the faint light stood not the tall, scaled wardens who had imprisoned him, but something else. It was another alien, yes, but not one of them. This one's skin shimmered faintly blue, its tall frame cloaked in fabric instead of armor. Its eyes glowed softly, and its hands, strange long-fingered hands, gestured urgently for Holt to rise. "Human," the alien whispered in accented standard. "Come, quickly before they see." Holt froze. This made no sense. The prison was built by the Korthid Dominion, the species that had nearly wiped out his fleet. They had no reason to spare a human, no reason to set him free. Why? Holt rasped, his voice cracked and raw. "Why would you? No time!" The alien's voice trembled with urgency. "We take you now, or you die here." For the first time in years, the impossible flicker of hope burned inside Holt's chest. He stumbled forward, his legs weak but fueled by something stronger than exhaustion. The alien caught his arm and pulled him out into the dark corridor. The prison was quiet, too quiet. Holt could feel his heart pounding louder than the footsteps he and his strange rescuer made. Every corner could have held guards. Every second could have been his last. And yet, the alien guided him with precision, avoiding patrols, knowing every shadow to hide in. As they moved, Holt's thoughts spun like a storm. Why me? Why now? What game is this? They reached a maintenance shaft. The alien pulled open a grate, motioning Holt inside. "Climb," it said. Holt obeyed. His body ached, but adrenaline carried him upward. The shaft led into a hidden bay, dimly lit by pale lights. There, waiting in silence, was a small vessel, sleek, silver, nothing like the heavy war machines of the Dominion. Another alien waited at the ramp. This one was older, its eyes sharper, its cloak darker. When it saw Holt, it gave a single nod. "You found him?" it said. The first alien bowed its head. "Yes, Elder. The human lives." Holt staggered forward, his mind spinning. "Lives," he growled. "You knew I was here? You planned this?" The elder alien looked at him with eyes Holt could not read. "We know more than you imagine, human. You are not the only one. There are others of your kind, scattered, broken, enslaved. We cannot free them all." "Not alone?" Holt froze, his breath catching. "Others?" he whispered. "Where?" The elder's gaze flickered toward the stars. "Across Dominion space, in camps, in mines, in labs. Your kind believes them dead, but they are alive, barely. And if you wish to see them again, you must live. That is why we take you now, the younger alien gestured urgently. We must go, before the patrol finds the breach. The elder nodded. Holt looked from the aliens to the ship. His heart pounded with the weight of what he had just heard. He was not alone. Humanity had been lied to. Forgotten soldiers still lived, but why would these aliens care? Why help me? Holt demanded, his voice rising with anger and confusion. Why risk yourselves for me? The elder's face hardened, but his words were calm. Because once, long ago, one of your kind saved one of ours. And a debt must be honored. Holt's eyes widened. He wanted answers, names, places, proof. But alarms blared in the distance. The prison had discovered the breach. The younger alien pushed him up the ramp. No more questions. Fly now or all is lost. Holt stumbled inside, collapsing against the ship's cold walls. The engines hummed, and the vessel lifted into the dark. As the stars stretched before him, Aaron Holt realized his life had just changed. He was no longer the forgotten prisoner. He was the witness to a secret that could shake all of Earth. For if others still lived, humanity would never abandon them. And this escape was only the spark of something far greater. The small ship vanished into the void, leaving behind the silent prison. But in Holt's heart, the silence was gone. Replaced by fire, the stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport. Cold, bright, and distant, Captain Aaron Holt sat in the small alien vessel, his hands shaking as the truth echoed in his mind. There are more of us. He had believed he was the last survivor, the forgotten prisoner of a lost war. But the aliens who had rescued him, the blue-skinned strangers who called themselves the Devari, had revealed something far greater. Humans were still out there, enslaved, hidden, scattered across enemy space, and Earth didn't know. The ship hummed softly, its engines running silent as it drifted between stars. Holt couldn't sleep. He couldn't rest. His thoughts were like thunder. What if the Devari were lying? What if this was a trick, another cruel game of the Dominion? Yet when he looked into the eyes of the Devari elder, he had seen no lies, only something older, something heavier. The elder had said, "Once one of yours saved one of ours. Now we return that debt," but debts didn't explain camps. Debts didn't explain chains. If Earth truly believed their soldiers dead, then what would they do when they learned the truth? Holt stared at the stars, and one thought burned hotter than all the rest. I have to tell them. I have to send a message to Earth. They must know. Humanity must rise again, but how? The Devari vessel was small, built for stealth. Its walls glowed faintly with alien markings Holt couldn't understand. He had been given food, water, even clean clothes, luxuries he hadn't seen in years. But still, the questions weighed on him. He cornered the younger alien, the one who had broken open his cell. Why now? Holt demanded. Why rescue me after all this time? The alien hesitated, glancing toward the elder before answering. Because the Dominion grows stronger. Because their chains reach farther. We needed someone your kind would believe. Not us, you, the elder added, his voice deep and steady. If we speak, humanity doubts. If you speak, humanity listens. Holt clenched his fists. The responsibility pressed down on him like iron. They weren't just freeing him. They were handing him a burden that could ignite war. The Devari guided the ship to a hidden outpost, buried on a moon cloaked in shadow. Inside, the walls were lined with strange technology, crystals that pulsed with light, machines that hummed with voices Holt didn't recognize. This place is shielded, the elder explained. The Dominion cannot track what is sent from here. Holt stood before a console, its surface shifting under his touch. A lens adjusted, focusing on him. The elder nodded. Speak, human. Send your truth to the stars. Holt swallowed hard. His throat felt dry, his chest tight. For years he had dreamed of this moment, contacting Earth, telling them he lived. But now the message was heavier than survival. He was not speaking for himself. He was speaking for all who remained in chains. The lens glowed. Recording began. Earth Command, Holt started, his voice low, steady. This is Captain Aaron Holt, serial number 54173A. If this reaches you, then know this. I am alive." He paused, letting the weight of those words hang. "I was captured in the Battle of Corthid's Reach. You declared me lost. I was not. For years I've been imprisoned, buried in the Dominion's cages. And I am not alone." His voice hardened. "There are others, hundreds, thousands, human soldiers, civilians, taken, enslaved, experimented on. The Dominion told us Earth forgot, that you would never come. And I believed them. Until now." Holt leaned forward, eyes burning into the lens. "I am proof. We are still here. And I swear to you, if Earth still remembers its honor, if Earth still has fire, then we must rise. Not for me. For every last one of us," his fists clenched at his sides. "Do not let this message die. Do not let us die in the dark. Come for us." The lens dimmed. Recording complete, the room was silent. The Divari elder bowed his head slowly. "You carry the fire of your people well," he said. Holt's chest heaved. He didn't feel strong. He felt raw, exposed. But the message was done. The Divari activated their systems, sending the recording across hidden channels, bouncing it between encrypted relays. "Your world will receive it," the elder promised. "The Dominion will not know." "Not yet," Holt's jaw tightened. "Not yet?" The elder's eyes narrowed. "They will learn. They always do. And when they learn, they will strike." The weight of those words sank in. Holt knew it was true. The Dominion's cruelty was vast. If Earth moved to rescue its people, it would not go unnoticed. War would follow, but Holt also knew something else. Earth could not ignore this. Not if they had any honor left. Weeks later, time blurred in the void. The Divari ship intercepted a signal. It was faint, wrapped in layers of code, but Holt recognized it instantly. It was human. He pressed close, listening as the message unfolded. "Captain Holt, this is Earth Command. Your transmission has been received." His heart raced. His breath caught. He felt alive in a way he hadn't in years. The voice continued. "Your claims are under review. If what you say is true, we cannot ignore it. Hold fast. Await further contact." The message ended. Holt slumped back, a storm inside him. Under review. That was all? He wanted to scream, to demand action, to beg Earth to move now. But deep down, he understood. Earth had thought him dead. Now they had to face a truth far more dangerous. Thousands of their people still lived, hidden behind enemy lines. The choice before them was not easy. Would they risk another war for those still in chains? Or would they do nothing and let their people rot in silence? The elder Divari studied Holt carefully. "Your people hesitate. That is natural. But the fire has been lit. The truth cannot be buried again." Holt nodded slowly. "They'll come. They have to." The elder's eyes glowed faintly. "Then prepare yourself, human, for when they come the stars will burn." Holt turned back to the viewport, staring at the endless night. For years he had been forgotten. Now he was the voice that could change everything, he whispered to himself, a promise he would never break. "They saved me, but I will not rest until we save them all." And far away on Earth, debates were already raging in secret chambers. Leaders argued, generals planned, and civilians whispered rumors of something stirring. The spark had been struck. And soon it would become fire. Earth's council must decide, stay hidden or risk everything to bring their people home. The great chamber of Earth's High Council was built of steel and glass, high above the cradle of the planet. Lights from the cities below shone through the windows, but inside, the air was heavy with tension. Aaron Holt stood at the center of the chamber, his figure thin from years of captivity, but his eyes burned with fire. The Divari had brought him home, smuggled across the void, and now he faced the most powerful leaders of his people. Around him, the council members argued in raised voices, their words crashing like thunder. "Impossible!" one snapped, his fists slamming against the table. "The Dominion will crush us if we act. We cannot risk open war. War!" Another shot back. "It is already war, if our people are still enslaved. Do you not hear what this man has said? They live. Our people live. The voices rose higher, colliding with one another, fear against honor, caution against rage. Holt said nothing at first. He simply stood there, watching as humanity's leaders bickered over the fate of those still lost in chains. Finally, the council speaker raised her hand, calling for silence. Her voice was measured but sharp. "Captain Holt, you have been gone for many years. You claim our soldiers, our civilians, are still alive. Do you have proof beyond your word?" Holt's throat tightened. His proof was scars, memories, the whispers of prisoners who had begged him not to forget them. Proof was the pain in his bones and the sound of chains in his dreams. But proof that the council would accept? That was harder. "I was there," he said, his voice low but carrying across the chamber. "I saw them, men, women, children, taken from broken colonies, forced into mines, into labor, into experiments. They are alive, and they are waiting for us." A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. Some council members shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward, eyes narrow, calculating. One of the generals finally spoke, his voice rough. "Even if this is true, even if thousands of our people still live, the Dominion's fleets outnumber us 100 to 1. To move against them is to risk extinction. Do you understand that, Captain?" Holt's gaze hardened. "I understand extinction better than anyone in this room. I lived it. Every day in that cell was extinction. Every scream I heard was extinction. You speak of risk, I speak of duty. Humanity does not leave its own behind." The chamber fell into heavy silence. The speaker studied him carefully, her eyes unreadable. A counselor from the outer colonies stood, his voice filled with anger. "How many more will we abandon before we stop cowering in shadows? We built fleets once. We defended the stars once. Have we forgotten who we are?" Another counselor hissed back, "And what will your brave speeches mean when Earth lies in ashes? You would sacrifice billions for a few thousand prisoners." The room erupted again. Voices shouted, hands slammed tables, accusations flew. Holt finally stepped forward, cutting through the noise. His voice carried sharp as a blade. "You ask if they are worth it. You ask if thousands of lives are worth risking billions. I ask you this. What are we if we let them rot in cages? What is humanity if we turn away from our own?" His words struck deep. Even the loudest voices quieted. For a long moment, no one spoke. The speaker leaned back in her chair, her fingers pressed together in thought. "You understand what you are asking? If we move to rescue these people, the Dominion will see it as an act of war. Our fleets have been silent for decades. Our shipyards sleep. To rise again will awaken every enemy we have tried to forget." "Then wake them," Holt said. His voice did not waver. "Wake the fleets. Wake the shipyards. Wake humanity itself. Because if we do not, then the Dominion has already won." The chamber was still. Some eyes burned with defiance, others with fear. At last the speaker spoke again, slowly, carefully. "The council will vote. But understand this, Captain Holt. If we rise, there is no turning back. Not for you. Not for Earth." Holt's heart pounded. He bowed his head once, sharply. "I never turn back, not then. Not now." The speaker signaled the guards. "You will remain under protection until a decision is made. But know this, your words have already spread." The people whisper. They talk of you, the man returned from the dead. They talk of those still in chains. Whether the council chooses war or silence, the people may decide for us. Holt allowed the guards to lead him from the chamber. As the great doors closed behind him, the sound of arguments rose once more, loud and desperate. In the halls outside, Holt walked alone, his fists clenched. He had seen fear in their eyes. He had seen doubt. But he had also seen something else, hope. And hope was a fire the Dominion could never cage. The shipyards had slept for decades. Massive rings of steel drifted in silence above the far side of the moon, cloaked from the eyes of the galaxy. Once they had forged the weapons of humanity's survival. Once their engines had thundered, and their fires had burned against the void. Now they were quiet, forgotten relics of a war most tried not to remember, until tonight sirens wailed across the yards as lights flickered on for the first time in years. Vast machines, dormant and dusted, roared awake with a groan of old metal. The council had argued, threatened, and nearly fractured, but in the end, fear was not enough to hold them still. They had voted humanity would rise again. Holt stood on a platform high above the first dock, his heart pounding as he watched the awakening. Below him, a massive ship stirred from its slumber. Its hull was blackened with scars from the last war, its engines cold. But as engineers worked and reactors flared, it began to glow once more. The ship's name burned across its side in faded letters, Valor's Edge. Holt swallowed hard. He remembered that name. He had heard stories of its captain, of its crew, legends whispered in training halls. The Dominion had once feared that ship. Now it was rising again. Around him, workers hurried like ants, stripping off old plating, fitting new weapons, feeding energy into ancient reactors. Veterans, men and women who had once served, grey-haired now but unbroken, stood side by side with young recruits who had never seen war but carried determination in their eyes. For the first time since his return, Holt felt the fire of his people burning not just in him, but everywhere. A voice behind him spoke. "Do you see it, Captain? The sleeping giants waking?" Holt turned. It was General Strauss, broad-shouldered, his uniform lined with medals. Once Strauss had been a name Holt cursed in prison walls, a man blamed for retreat, for surrender. But now, standing here, Holt saw something else in him, burden, weight, and resolve. "I see it," Holt said softly. "But it won't be enough." Strauss's jaw tightened. "It will never be enough, but it will be something. And sometimes something is all you need to light a fire." Below, more ships powered on, one after another, carriers, frigates, cruisers. Some looked old, battered relics. Others gleamed from fresh construction. Holt's eyes moved from hull to hull, each one a promise, each one a blade drawn from its sheath. He remembered the elder Devari's words, "When they come, the stars will burn." Already, the stars seemed to flicker with warning. A young engineer approached, her face smeared with oil, her eyes bright. "Captain Holt, sir? The council ordered your presence on Valor's Edge. She'll be your flagship." Holt's breath caught. Him? On that ship? He was a prisoner a month ago, a forgotten ghost. Now he was being placed at the helm of a legend. Strauss gave a hard nod. "You're a symbol now. The council wants the galaxy to see you. A man the Dominion could not kill, standing where they fear most." Holt's heart pounded, not with fear but with responsibility. He knew what this meant. He would not only fight, he would lead. The engineer guided him to the dock. As Holt crossed the ramp into the Valor's Edge, he felt the ship's weight in his chest, heavy and steady, like stepping into history. The halls smelled of dust and fuel, but the walls hummed faintly, alive again. Crew members saluted as he passed, some wide-eyed, some grinning. "Welcome aboard, sir," one whispered, awe in his tone. "We heard you were dead." "Not yet," Holt answered quietly. The bridge was alive with energy. Consoles flickered to life. Officers called out system checks. Screens lit with star maps. Holt stepped forward, his hand brushing the command chair. It was worn smooth, leather cracked, but it carried the weight of all who had sat in it before. He didn't sit. Not yet. Instead, he looked out through the wide viewport. Across the docks, other ships awakened, their engines flaring, their lights cutting through the void like new stars. Humanity's fleet was being reborn before his eyes. He felt the presence of every prisoner still out there, every human in chains, pressing against him, whispering in his ears. "We are waiting. Do not fail us." Strauss's voice broke the silence. "First mission is already in motion." Recon picked up a Dominion supply world. "Small garrison, high chance of prisoners. We strike there." Holt turned, his eyes blazing. "Then we don't wait. We don't delay. We move now." The general gave a grim smile. "Spoken like a man who knows what's at stake." The Valor's Edge thrummed, her engines firing, her decks shivering as power surged through every corridor. One by one, other ships answered her call. The fleet was not yet vast, not yet ready, but it was alive. For decades, the galaxy had believed humanity broken. Tonight, the galaxy would hear the first whispers of truth. Humanity was not finished. Humanity was coming. Holt finally lowered himself into the command chair. The bridge crew straightened, eyes fixed on him. He felt their hope. He felt their fear. He felt their trust. He spoke only 4 words, but they carried across the ship, across the fleet, across the stars, bring them all home. Engines roared. The docks trembled, and the legendary fleet awakened. The void split with fire. The Valor's Edge dropped out of jump space first, her engines burning white as she cut across the stars. One by one, ships followed, old cruisers, frigates, and carriers, their hulls scarred from wars long past but alive again. Humanity's fleet had returned to the fight. Alarms screamed across the bridge. The Dominion had patrols here, smaller ships, faster, circling the planet below like wolves around a carcass. Their sensors lit the void the moment the fleet arrived. Enemy contacts, 5 ships, light destroyers, an officer shouted. "They're moving to intercept!" Captain Aaron Holt gripped the arm of the command chair, his voice steady though his heart thundered. "Then we hit first. Helm, bring us forward. Weapons, fire on my mark." The Dominion ships moved fast, their sleek black hulls slicing through space. For years, humanity had avoided them, hidden from them. "Not anymore, range closing," another officer reported. The bridge crew looked to Holt. Many were young, their first real battle ahead. Others were veterans, their eyes hard but eager to see the Dominion bleed again. Holt raised his hand. "Mark!" The Valor's Edge unleashed her fury. Cannons roared, beams of light tearing across the void. The first Dominion ship took the full blast. Its shields flared, then shattered. An explosion lit the darkness as its hull split apart. The bridge shook with cheers, but Holt's face stayed cold. "Don't celebrate. We're not done." The enemy returned fire. Beams hammered the Edge's shields, making the deck rumble. Sparks rained from the ceiling as systems strained, shields at 70%. A voice called. "Hold steady," Holt ordered. "Bring the next volley. Target their engines." The fleet moved as one. Old warships that had slept for decades now roared with vengeance. Missiles streaked through the void. Dominion ships dodged, but not enough. Another explosion filled the stars. Still 2 destroyers pressed closer, their weapons burning holes into human shields. On the bridge, Holt's voice cut through the chaos. "Helm, swing us around. Bring the broadside online." The Valor's Edge rolled, her cannons flashing in unison. The broadside tore into the nearest destroyer, ripping through armor, spilling it into space. The Dominion ship faltered, broke apart, and drifted silent. The last enemy vessel hesitated. For the first time in decades, Dominion captains saw human warships rise against them. Fear spread across the comms. The ship turned, retreating into the void. "Let it go," Holt said. His eyes were already on the planet below. The world turned slowly beneath them, grey skies and blackened mountains. Scattered Dominion structures dotted the surface, but one drew Holt's gaze. The camp, prison walls, barracks, fences. He could almost hear the echoes of chains. "Deploy the Marines," Holt ordered. Dropships detached from the carriers, streaking down through the atmosphere. Inside, soldiers braced against the turbulence, their faces set, their hearts burning with the same fire Holt carried. On the ground, the camp shook as alarms blared. Dominion guards rushed to the fences, their weapons raised. But the sky split open, and human dropships slammed down. Marines poured out, weapons blazing. Blasts lit the air as the guards fell back. Prisoners huddled in the corners, their eyes wide with disbelief. One of the Marines, Sergeant Kane, tore the gates open with a charge. He stepped inside, his voice booming. "Humans, you're free. We're taking you home." For a heartbeat, silence. Then the prisoners began to rise, thin, broken, but alive. Some cried, some laughed. Some simply stared at the soldiers in armor, not daring to believe. Above, Dominion reinforcements roared in on skimmers. Fire rained down, scattering the Marines. "Contact left," Kane shouted. His squad turned, weapons blazing, cutting the enemy from the sky. Dropships circled back, their cannons shredding the Dominion lines. The prisoners were herded onto transports. Mothers clutched children. Old veterans leaned on young Marines. The camp that had been despair for years now rang with hope, but hope came with blood. Marines fell in the firefight, their bodies left in the dust. Kane dragged one of his men behind cover, shouting into comms. "Extraction now! We're running out of time." From orbit, Holt watched the battle unfold on the screens. His jaw tightened as he saw red dots vanish from the Marine squads. "Keep the ships low," he ordered. "We don't leave anyone behind." Minutes felt like hours. The last groups of prisoners stumbled onto the dropships. Kane was the last Marine through the gate, firing as he ran. He dove into the bay as the doors sealed, Dominion fire glancing off the hull. Dropships roared back into the sky, engines screaming. The Valor's edge pulled them in, shielding them as they rose out of the atmosphere. Dominion forces scrambled, but it was too late. On the bridge, silence fell as the prisoners were brought aboard. Hundreds of faces, gaunt but alive, filled the cargo bays. Some collapsed, some embraced their rescuers, some wept uncontrollably. Holt watched them on the screens. His hands trembled, his chest tight. He whispered to himself, almost too quiet for the crew to hear. "We did it! We brought them home!" Cheers erupted across the bridge, across the fleet. For the first time in years, humanity had struck the Dominion and won. For the first time in years, they had saved their own, but Holt's eyes stayed on the stars. He knew the Dominion would not ignore this. He knew this was only the beginning, yet in his heart he felt no fear. Only fire. They had saved one camp. Soon they would save more, and humanity would not stop until every last one was free. The Dominion did not stay silent. Word of the prison raid spread across the stars faster than light. Every channel, every whispering trader, every spy drone carried the same message. Humanity had returned. The fleet they thought buried was alive. The soldiers they thought broken were fighting again. And the prisoners, those long-forgotten ghosts, were free. On the bridge of the Valor's Edge, Captain Aaron Holt stood stiff as the reports came in. News screens flashed with Dominion broadcasts. Cold alien voices filled with venom, their images warped with fire and smoke. "Humans," one broadcast declared, "have broken the truce. They spit on mercy. They strike like cowards from the shadows. For this crime, we will end their kind forever." The Dominion's words were everywhere, painting Earth as aggressors, as liars, as beasts that needed to be put down. And worse, some neutral worlds believed it. "They're twisting it," Lieutenant Mara spat, fists clenched at her console. "We saved prisoners. We saved our people. And they make us look like monsters." General Strauss's face hardened on the comms. "This is what the Dominion does. Lies are their first weapon. Fear is the second. And now the third will come, the fleet." Holt looked to the star map as red markers began to appear. Dominion fleets were moving. Not small patrols, not destroyers. Full strike groups. "Reports confirm," an officer said, her voice low. "A Dominion warfleet is on the way. 50 ships at least. Heavy carriers, cruisers, more firepower than we can handle." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew the truth. They were outnumbered. The reborn human fleet was powerful, yes, but still small. Every ship lost was a wound they couldn't heal. Holt broke the silence. His voice was calm, steady, even as the fire burned in his chest. "They're coming because they're afraid. They're afraid because we reminded them what humanity can do. And now we'll remind them again," Strauss grunted. "Brave words, Captain, but we can't win a head-on fight." Not yet, he was right. Holt knew it. Still, surrender was not an option. They had saved one camp. The prisoners' faces still haunted him, burned into his memory. To stop now would betray all of them. "Then we don't fight head-on," Holt said. "We make them chase us. We bleed them. We show the galaxy the truth." But the Dominion was already moving faster than they expected. Hours later, alarms blared across the fleet. "Incoming!" an officer shouted. "Dominion strike group, 3 jumps out, tracking straight toward us." The bridge vibrated with tension. Engineers scrambled. Soldiers checked weapons. Pilots prepared fighters. The entire fleet braced for the storm. On the main screen, Holt saw them appear. Massive black ships, sleek and cruel, their engines burning like dying suns. At their head, a colossal carrier, the Karzul, flagship of Admiral Veyrak, one of the Dominion's most feared commanders. "Open channel," Holt ordered. The alien's image filled the screen. A towering figure, armored in silver, his face sharp and cold. His voice was low, venom dripping from every word. "Human," he hissed, "you should have stayed forgotten. We allowed your species to crawl back into the shadows, to live in the dirt you earned. But now you rise again, and so we will burn you." Slowly, the bridge crew stiffened at his voice. Holt stared into the alien's eyes, unblinking. "You made a mistake," Holt said, his voice cutting like steel. "You should never have spared even one of us. Because now we're coming for all of ours. Every last one." Verak's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Then we will scatter your ashes among the stars." The channel cut. The Dominion fleet advanced. The Valor's edge shook as long-range fire lit the void. Human shields flared, straining under the impact. The enemy's power was overwhelming, but Holt's eyes burned with defiance. "Helm evasive. Weapons target their lead destroyers. We hit hard, then we vanish. Make them chase us." The fleet obeyed. Beams of light tore across space, human warships darting like wolves, striking and pulling away. Explosions rippled as a Dominion destroyer fell. But for every ship they damaged, more pressed in. The bridge rattled, sparks falling from the ceiling. Crew members shouted damage reports, yet Holt sat firm in his chair, his voice steady. "Hold the line! Show them humanity is not prey." But deep inside he knew the truth. This was only the beginning. The Dominion had answered, and they would not stop until humanity was crushed, or until the galaxy itself saw who truly deserved to survive. The void was fire. The Dominion fleet had chased humanity across the stars, their black warships cutting through the void like knives. Each battle left scars, each clash cost ships, but still the humans endured. For weeks, the galaxy had watched in silence. Some believed humanity's rebirth was a spark that would fade. Others whispered that maybe, just maybe, the old legends were true. Now the truth would be decided. Captain Aaron Holt stood at the command chair of the Valor's edge, eyes locked on the star map. Dominion markers filled it like a spreading infection. Yet amid the red, one cluster of blue markers shone bright. Humanity's fleet, scarred but alive, gathered in one place for the first time in decades. This was no longer a raid, no longer a desperate strike. This was war. "All ships reporting ready," an officer said. Her voice trembled with something between fear and awe. "They're waiting on you, Captain." Holt's jaw tightened. He thought of the prisoners they had freed, of the faces that once seemed lost to history. He thought of the Council's divisions, of the Devari elder who had warned him that the stars would burn. He thought of every chain, every scar, every whispered plea, and he knew what had to be done. "Signal the fleet," Holt said, his voice steady, carrying to every ear on the bridge. "Tell them this isn't just a battle. This is the return of our people. Today, humanity rises again." The comms lit up, his words echoing ship to ship. Across carriers and frigates, across the smallest patrol craft and the largest warships, crews straightened, eyes burning with fire. The Dominion arrived. 50 ships. Carriers, cruisers, destroyers, vast engines of war, their formation tight, their weapons glowing. At their center, the Karzul, Admiral Verak's flagship, loomed like a shadow that could swallow suns. The alien admiral's voice cut across open channels, dripping with contempt. "You are surrounded. You are outnumbered. Humanity dies here." But Holt did not flinch. He leaned forward in his chair, his words sharp as steel. "No," he said. "Humanity lives here." The fleets collided. The void erupted with light as cannons roared and missiles streaked. Human ships dove through the fire, striking fast and hard. Dominion vessels answered with brutal force, beams slicing across shields, armor cracking under the assault. The Valor's edge shook, alarms screaming, shields down to 40%. Someone shouted, "Keep firing." Holt barked. His knuckles whitened on the armrest, but his eyes never wavered. "Every shot counts. Every hit matters." The Dominion pressed forward, their numbers crushing. 2 human frigates exploded in fire, torn apart. For every ship they lost, humanity's fleet fought harder, and then the tide turned. Out of the void, jump signatures flared, more ships, massive and many. For a heartbeat, the humans feared reinforcements had arrived for the Dominion. But then the symbols appeared on the star map. Blue human. The galaxy had doubted, but the truth was here. Across distant colonies, hidden shipyards and forgotten stations, Earth's call had been heard. Veterans pulled their vessels from hiding. Colonists turned mining rigs into warships. Ancient carriers, thought forever broken, limped from the void with their engines blazing. They had come home. The comms filled with voices, thousands of them.
For Earth!
For the lost! For humanity! The Dominion fleet faltered. For the first time, they saw not prey, not remnants, but a people united now. Holt roared. All ships, advance! The void became fire and thunder. Humanity's fleet, now vast, surged forward. Waves of missiles shattered Dominion shields. Carriers unleashed fighters in swarms. Cruisers flanked, tearing through the enemy's edges. On the Valor's edge, Holt's eyes locked on the Karzul. The beast at the heart of it all. Bring us to her, he ordered. The edge dove, cannons blazing. Veyrak's ship answered with a torrent of fire, shaking the human flagship to its core. Sparks flew, crew screamed, but still they pressed on. Target their reactor, Holt commanded. All batteries, fire! The broadside unleashed. Beams tore into the Karzul's armor, cracking it open. Explosions rippled across its hull. Veyrak's furious voice filled the comms. But it was drowned by the roar of human firepower. One last volley. The Karzul erupted in flame, breaking apart in the void, its fragments burning like falling stars. Silence fell across the comms. Then came the cheers. Deafening, endless, unstoppable. The Dominion fleet broke, ships scattering into retreat. Humanity did not chase. They did not need to. The message was already written in the stars. Holt sat back in his chair, exhausted, his voice a whisper only his crew could hear. We're back. And across the galaxy, everyone now knew the truth. Humanity had returned. The stars were quiet after the fire. The Dominion fleet had been broken. Wreckage drifted in the void, glowing faint with the heat of battle. Humanity's warships stood battered but alive, their hulls scarred, their engines strained but their banners burning bright. The galaxy had seen it, the return of a people thought lost. But Captain Aaron Holt knew the war was not finished. Victory in one battle did not end centuries of chains. On the Valor's edge, the bridge was filled with silence, the kind that came only after death and fire. Crew members sat bloodied, exhausted, their faces pale but burning with pride. They had survived what should have killed them. Status of the fleet? Holt asked quietly. 17 ships lost, an officer reported, her voice cracking. Hundreds dead, but thousands freed. Her console flickered with images. The prisoners rescued from the camps filled the carriers, faces gaunt but smiling, voices breaking with disbelief as they looked upon stars they thought they'd never see again. Mothers wept with children they had thought gone. Old soldiers saluted the flag once more, and Holt's heart tightened. General Strauss appeared on the comms, his face grim but proud. You did it, Captain. You gave humanity what it needed, hope. The galaxy knows now. We will never go quietly into chains again. But Holt shook his head. Not yet. Not until they're all home. Every camp, every prison, every last one. The words carried across the bridge, across the fleet. Soldiers lifted their heads. Officers straightened in their seats. Even the freed prisoners who listened over the comms felt the weight of those words. Every last one. For too long, humanity had been scattered, broken, silent. But no more. The fleet moved from world to world in the days that followed. Camps were torn open, prisons shattered. Dominion garrisons fled in panic as the legend of humanity's return spread like wildfire. For every ship destroyed, 10 more rose from hidden yards, from colonies long forgotten, from veterans who had never given up. On one world, Holt walked among the rescued himself. Thin hands reached out to touch him, whispers following his steps. He was the one they could not kill. The one who came back. He did not see himself as a savior. He saw himself as a soldier with a duty. To the dead, to the lost, to the living. And so the fleet grew. So the prisoners came home. The Dominion still lived, still threatened, still gathered power. Holt knew the war would stretch far beyond his lifetime, but it did not matter. What mattered was the promise. The vow burned into the heart of every ship, every soldier, every survivor. Humanity would fight. Humanity would endure. Humanity would bring their people home. On the bridge of the Valor's Edge, as the fleet set course for the next prison world, Holt gave the only order that mattered. Engage jump. For Earth, for the fallen, for every last one. The stars stretched into light, and the legendary fleet vanished into the void, carrying the fire of a people who would never be broken again.